Banks here with another lesson request, and this time it was on how to put jazz changes in your blues. So let's look at it. I've chosen the key of F because that is a very common jazz key. I know it's not the most friendly of guitar keys, but if you're going to start playing jazz, better get used to horn player keys. B flat and F are probably the most common. So the first thing you're going to know is just the standard changes in a regular blues, like a blues. So that would be 4 bars of chord 1, F, 2 bars of chord 4, B flat, 4 bar, and then another 2 bars of F, and then you have the turnaround. This is the last 4 bars. Chord 5 for a bar, which is C, chord 4 for a bar, chord 1 for a bar, and then back to chord 5. Now some genres have variations on those turnaround changes. In country music, they would tend to hover on chord 5 for 2 bars, and then they go to chord 1 for 2 bars. But the main thing that you'll find if you look at blues chord progressions across all genres, the unifying thing is in bar 1, you're going to have chord 1, and in bar 5, you're going to have chord 4. The rest is kind of up for grabs. So let's just go through and talk about some of the standard things that you might find. The first thing that people are probably going to put in is in bar 2, they'll go to chord 4. This happens in blues quite a bit as well. 4 bars on 1 chord is a long time. So that means you get like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, chord 4, like that. The next thing that jazz guys like to do is they like to do a 2-5-1 to the 4 chord. So in bar 4, we are going to find out the 2 of B flat is C minor, the 5 is F, probably turn it into a flat 9 or an altered chord, and then go to chord 4. So you get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Adding a 2-5, or at the very least, the 5 of the chord you're going to, it adds intensity and tension, and it makes the resolution all that more enjoyable. Then you're on chord 4 for 2 bars. Very commonly in jazz, they will do something in that second bar, because even 2 bars on a chord is an eternity in jazz. So the most common thing that they will do is they will turn chord 4, so in this case B flat 7, you'll move up a semitone and turn it into a diminished chord. So B diminished, which is the same as B7 flat 9. And then that resolves back to an F7. Sounds great if you have the 5th in bass. The other thing you can do in those 2 bars is you could have a 2-5-1 back to F, of course. You could have B flat 2, 3, 4, and then you could have 2, 5, 1, like that. Or you could just stay on 4 for 2 bars, and then like a beat before going back to F, you could do the old semitone above or below, slide up or down kind of thing. Now we're getting into the interesting territory, okay? So this is where we have the turnaround or the preparation for the turnaround, which is quite an event in jazz. There are lots of different ways you can do it, but at its core, it's just a variation on a 2-5-1 or a 3-6-2-5-1, which is an extended 2-5-1. So in F, 2 is going to be G minor, 5 is going to be C. If you do a 2-5-1 to the 2-5-1 I just talked about, that would be A7 to D7, which then goes to G to C. And in the context of the key of F, that's chord 3, which goes to chord 6, which goes to chord 2, which goes to chord 5. 3, 6, 2, 5. Really, really common thing. And then there are lots and lots of variations on that. You can do tritone subs, you can do chromatic movement, you can mix up chromatic tritone stuff. We'll get into maybe a little bit of it, but I think I'll do a separate video on turnarounds. So the turnaround, nothing's really happening in the turnaround. It's a bit like if you drive your car and you get to a roundabout and you could drive around that forever. You're not actually going anywhere, but you're still driving. So it's the same kind of thing in this context here. So let's back up to where we were in the blues. We've just gone back to chord 1. This is bar 7 of the blues. Now we're going to stay on that for a bar. In bar 8, to prepare for the sort of last 4 bars, we'll often do a quick 3-6. So we'll get 3, 6, which is A, D7, then a whole bar of G minor, 2, 3, 4 whole bar of C7, and then you'll do a compressed 3, A to D, which is 6, 2, G, C. So that sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. of more structural changes you can do to that. You could, when you're on the B flat, you could substitute, instead of going back to F, you could just go to A minor. F and A minor are more or less the same chord. So you could have a bar of A minor, then a bar of D7, then a bar of G, then a bar of C7, and then the compressed 3-6-2-5. The next thing that you probably will find, there's two ways you can create interest with that sort of turnaround we're looking at. The actual voicings you use, there are lots and lots of options. So I was doing just like Freddie Green stuff so you can hear the bass line. I might not do that if I was playing with the band. Chances are I would do like upper voicings. So I might get something like, there's my A7, then to my D, then I might get... So that would be another way of creating melodies on the top 9, sort of getting into chord melody stuff. And I haven't changed the chords that were underneath it. Another way I could play that, I could have A7, then to D, then to G minor, then to C, and then I get A, D, then G, then to C, then back to 1. Same chords, different voicings, different melody. If I want to change the melody slightly, I can get into tritone subs. And that's essentially, I did a video on tritone subs last week, so you can hit that up. But in practice here, that would mean looking at A7 would become E flat 7. That would slide down perfectly to D. G minor 7, which could become G7, would then be transferred into D flat 7. That's the tritone sub to C. So you get this like that. Or we could do another one where we looked at, A then goes down to A flat, which is a tritone sub for D. G remains the same, and then G flat 7 or G flat major 7, which is what I played in the intro, is a tritone sub for C. So you could get the... We could mix those two up. You could go A to A flat, D flat, C. Or you could get E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. There are a lot of different combinations which I won't go through now, but you can write them down on a piece of paper and sort of work them out. The next thing that sometimes happens is what's called a bird blues, and that is where you introduce a thing called backcycling. So we talked about 2-5-1s, and we had a 3-6-2-5, which is a 2-5, 2 or 2-5. And you can continue that, just these chains of descending 2-5s that eventually reach a target 1 chord. So in order to work out something like this, find out what your target chord is and then just gradually work back. So our target chord for this, we're going to fill in the first 4 bars of the tune. So bar 1, we've got an F. I'm going to leave that as it is. And then we have 3 bars to get to B flat. So our target chord is chord 4, B flat. B flat. Okay, so now the 5 of B flat is going to be F. The 5 of F is C. The 5 of C is G. The 5 of G is D. The 5 of D is A. The 5 of A is E. So if we had a bar of F for a bar, 1, 2. Now we start that chain E, A, D, G, C, F, like that. If you listen to Blues for Alice by Charlie Parker, you hear that. It often starts on a major 7 chord. A lot of people can get overwhelmed by trying to solo over bird blues, and you can follow the changes, but it really is it's just F, right? So I would it's going to create interesting harmonies with the bass line moving underneath you. I'd probably play F lines, and then in the 4th bar, when you're going to turn your F into some kind of altered or dominant 7 flat 9 chord, play a line like that and it'll resolve to B flat. That's what I would do most of the time, rather than actually follow each individual change, because the chords are moving so frequently for such a prolonged period that if you try and outline every single chord, every single chorus, it will be the musical equivalent of emphasizing every single syllable that you are saying, and you just lose the flow of your phrasing. So I'll do another video on how you play through these changes. I have got one that sort of addresses this general topic, but this looks at how you're going to come up with just blues, jazz, or jazz substitutions for a regular blues. Now, you don't have to use all this. You might just find that you want to do the 2/5 to chord 4. That's totally fine. You might find that you want to do a jazz turnaround. If you have a standard 3-chord blues and you're the soloist, remember you can, superimpose a lot of these changes even though the band's not doing it. Obviously, your artistic discretion is advised, and your judgment is key there to know whether or not it's appropriate. But in theory, you can do that, right? So if the band's sort of just doing a regular kind of blues, you could throw in some changes. So if you've got any lessons that you want me to do videos on, drop a comment below. I'll see what I can do. And please subscribe, share the video with anyone who's struggling with this kind of stuff. And I'll see you cats next time.